Welcome to our thought for today for Monday, the 7th of September. My name is Graham Hoslett. Psalm 142 is titled A Maskil of David when he was in the cave, a prayer. According to the title, Psalm 142 is referring to 1 Samuel 24, when King Saul had taken 3,000 able young men from all Israel and set out to look for David and his men near the crags of the wild goats. King Saul was intensely jealous of David and had set out to capture and kill him. 1 Samuel 24 says in verse 3, Saul came to the sheep pens along the way, a cave was there, and Saul went in to relieve himself. But David and his men were far back in the cave. Caves in those days didn't have engaged signs on them. Anyway, hiding far back in the cave, 1 Samuel 24 says, David's men said to David, "This is the day the Lord spoke of when he said to you, I will give your enemy into your hands for you to deal with as you wish." Having unknowingly chased David into the cave, Saul had gone in there alone. But rather than kill Saul, 1 Samuel 24 says, then David crept up unnoticed and cut off a corner of Saul's robe. Afterwards, David was conscience-stricken for having cut off a corner of his robe. He said to his men, "The Lord forbid that I should do such a thing to my master, the Lord's anointed, or lay my hand on him, for he is the anointed of the Lord." With these words, David sharply rebuked his men and did not allow them to attack Saul. And Saul left the cave and went his way. And reading on, David then came out, called out to Saul, showed him the corner of his robe, and Saul, for the moment at least, came to his senses, asked David's forgiveness, and stopped pursuing David at that moment. There in that cave, David had proved his mettle. He had not taken matters into his own hands, Saul out to kill David, but when David could have killed Saul, David let him go. The Lord forbid that I should do such a thing to my master, for he is the anointed of the Lord. The moral of the story? Be careful not to take matters into your own hands, even when, especially when, you are in a dark place. But caves come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And many of us will find ourselves in a similar dark, forbidding, frightening place, a place sometimes of our own choosing. David had gone into that cave freely, thinking it was a good place to hide. Some of the things we read in Psalm 142, for me at least, speak into issues we face when struggling with our mental health. Verse 3 begins, when my spirit grows faint within me. A faintness of spirit. When Jesus was overcome with sorrow to the point of death and wanted Peter, James and John to keep watch with him in the Garden of Gethsemane, he said to them, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. But sometimes it is our spirits that grow weary, no matter how strong we might be in the flesh. And maybe that is the hardest tiredness to face, tiredness of spirit, not of body. I am comforted that Psalm 142 doesn't say to us, if my spirit should ever grow weak within me, but when my spirit grows faint within me. Maybe that's why the first beatitude in Matthew 5 is, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. But if you are facing or fearing weakness of spirit at the moment, verse 3 has comfort for us. When my spirit grows faint within me, it is you who know my way, or it is you who watch over my way. And there in the back of his cave, it wasn't just weakness of spirit David felt, but abandonment, isolation. In his trouble he felt alone. Verse 4, look and see, there is no one at my right hand, no one is concerned for me, I have no refuge, no one cares for my life. Of course, in David's case, that wasn't true. He had a band of brothers still with him, even in the back of that cave. But I guess in the darkness, he just couldn't see that, couldn't feel that. We can so easily feel that no one else cares, or caring that no one else really understands. Look and see, there is no one at my right hand, no one is concerned for me, I have no refuge, no one cares for my life. Well, David did have friends, and so too do you. But what strengthened David was not just knowing even in the darkness that he still had friends, but that even in that darkness, he still had a friend. Proverbs 18 verse 24 says, one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin. But there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin. But there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Psalm 142 verse 3, when my spirit grows faint within me, it is you who know my way, who watches over my way. There is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And in David's cave, in verse 6 of Psalm 142, there is a frank admission. Listen to my cry, in verse 6, he says, for I am in desperate need. Rescue me from those who pursue me, for they are too strong for me. This is the David who had, as a boy, killed the lion and the bear. This is the David who, as a boy, had gone on in the name of the Lord to face down and kill Goliath the giant. This is the David of whom the crowds sang, Saul has killed his thousands, but David has killed his tens of thousands. But in his cave, even this David prayed, listen to my cry, for I am in desperate need. Rescue me from those who pursue me, for they are too strong for me. If David recognized his weakness, how much more can we? Paul, talking about his thorn in the flesh in 2 Corinthians 12, his weakness, he says he prayed 3 times for the Lord to take it away. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, says Paul in 2 Corinthians 12, verse 8. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, Paul says, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. How we fear weakness, rightly so. But it is only weakness that leads us to the Lord, that keeps us with the Lord. It is often only in weakness that we are driven deeper into Jesus. So in verse 7 of Psalm 142, we have a heartfelt prayer that we can all join in. Set me free from my prison, that I may praise your name. Then the righteous will gather about me because of your goodness to me. Set me free from my prison. Maybe the prison you find yourself in at the moment is a place you have been chased into. But maybe it's a place of your own choosing. Somewhere you entered of your own volition, of your own free will, because it seemed to be a safe place, somewhere you could hide. But the deeper you've gone into it, the darker it has become. Whatever type of cave you might be hiding in or feel trapped in, may you know that even at the back of the darkest cave, you are not alone. You have friends. And may you know the love of the greatest friend of all, still watching over you, no matter how dark it seems. Set me free from my prison, David said, at the back of his deep dark cave, that I may praise your name. May you know the light of the Lord shining upon you, even in your darkest moments and even in your darkest place. Amen.